Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from What Culture.
And I'm the inspirational Andy Murray from What Culture. And remember, don't just take 5, take 10.
Coming up, this story ain't a bore. You won't believe who might be showing up on Raw.
This ain't no joke, Big Dave almost went broke.
It's him and me telling you about who got injured on NXT.
Ciampa Tommaso is kicking his injuries ass-off.
And we're in a bit of a rush, but you won't believe who might be getting a
Boosh.
This is the news.
We are going to start things off with a big bad story about big bad Brock Lesnar.
It's happening.
It's happening. If you have been following wrestling media over the past few days, you will know that Brock is coming to Raw tonight and he's cashing in his money in the bank briefcase per Paul Heyman on Twitter. So we can expect the big purple boy to show up. The downside of all this, of course, is that it probably means the end of the big boombox, which has been just tremendous patter over the past few weeks. But apparently, the current thought within WWE, and this is a spoiler, so if you don't want to hear it, maybe hit your mute button for a minute or two. 3, 2, 1, mute. Apparently, Brock's
just doing if someone's got it muted, they think I'm going mental.
Yeah, it's wacky as hell. Apparently, Brock's going to win a world title tonight. So, well, I mean, I say that. This is the viewpoint of Shiggity Shagger Dave of the Wrestling Observer, of course, who on a recent episode of Wrestling Observer Radio said the following. I think he's winding up with the championship by the end of the night, regardless of whether he targets Kofi Kingston or Seth Rollins. Now,
So he hasn't got a bloody clue.
well, it's getting old and a bit sorry. But he notes that while Rollins and Kingston both have matches at Super Showdown this Friday defending the belt, changing things up last minute isn't exactly outside of WWE's playbook at the moment, and I don't think anyone, as Dave rightly points out, will lose any sleep if either of those matches are cancelled necessarily.
Can you imagine if Dolph Ziggler's done all this stuff and then goes, oh, bollocks, I've got to face Brock Lesnar?
Yeah, I'm going to get squashed in 2 minutes, brother. Yeah,
Which title do you think he's going to go for?
Ooh, I mean, looking at past patterns, you'd think Seth Rollins and the Universal title,
so
just because he's had it before. Rollins is the champion on the flagship show. WWE would probably want to keep Brock around on that specific brand. We saw Heyman on last week's SmackDown, or the other week's SmackDown, but not Brock. Kingston, man, the backlash would be horrendous. It would be hilarious, but it'd be horrendous. Online would go mental for the big company guy coming in, the part-timer swooping this belt away from Kofi after his big cathartic win at WrestleMania and his really good title reign so far. I think Rollins, but I could totally see Vince just trolling the audience.
I think it's going to be Rollins. I think Rollins is better chasing the title anyway.
Yeah.
And I think it makes more sense and it was more obvious. And we've got to wait months and months and months before SmackDown obviously moves to Fox, which is when you would assume they'd do something with Brock on the blue brand. So. But we'll have to wait and see, and we'll also have to wait and see about who might be showing up also on Monday Night Raw, because Matt Riddle, might be showing up on Monday Night Raw to ruin, I don't know what that was, to ruin everything. He tweeted after this cash-in announcement saying, I'll be there to ruin it, bro. See you Monday at Raw, and has since told SportsIllustrated.com, and I heard Brock's cashing in on Monday. They're paying me enough, I could buy a plane ticket, I could be there on Monday, Will Cena, but no matter where I go, we're going to have some fun along the way. He had a fantastic match with Roderick Strong at TakeOver over the weekend. I've always campaigned for him to just get immediately brought up to the main roster because he's phenomenal. And a fellow MMA guy like Brock, I'd love to see something like this happen, especially if it costs him that cash.
Yeah, 100%. It'd be bags of fun, wouldn't it? Particularly as Matt Riddle is on something of a high at the moment, having smashed Roddy Strong in that awesome match at TakeOver. I mean, Riddle's been talking about retiring Lesnar for ages, it seems. He loves a little wind-up on social media, loves a little wind-up in interviews. We saw that the other day when he was asked, if you weren't Matt Riddle in NXT, what name did you pitch that you could be, another name you could be? And he said, Rafu Middle. So, he's clearly...
That might be better.
Yeah, he's clearly quite the scamp, is Matt Riddle, so there's every chance he's just kind of working us here. Either way, it's bags of fun, isn't it? Like, it puts the idea that this guy could turn up on Raw and just ruin everything for Brock.
Bring the flip-flops to Monday night, please.
And kick them in Paul Heyman's face, like he did to...
Flicks it into Brock Lesnar's eyes, costs him the cash in.
It'd just be tremendous stuff, and we all love Matt Riddle. We'd all pop like hell if that happened, I think.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to, we've just talked about Big Dave Meltzer. We're going to talk about Big Dave Bautista, the original Big Dave, of course. He was at the Denver Pop Culture Comic Con, that's quite the mouthful, this weekend, and he spoke a little bit about his wrestling career and how that intersected with his acting career. And he said some pretty interesting stuff. The most notable point here being that after leaving WWE in 2010, he claims that he starved for 3 years. He says, I went broke, I lost everything, I couldn't get a job, and I said I will never go back to wrestling until I prove what I set out to prove, and that was that I can make it as an actor. So he left WWE in 2010. He was in films before, but he didn't really get a major break until he scored the role of Drax the Destroyer as part of the MCU. Of course, Guardians of the Galaxy 1, the first film in which he portrayed that character, came out in 2014. He returned to WWE late 2013, the tail end 2014 for that Royal Rumble, which was a disaster. At that point, it was clear that he had proved that he could make it as an actor in his own mind, and he returned and had that little run. Interesting stuff. You'd have thought that a guy like Batista wouldn't necessarily be hard for cash after such a successful WWE run. But after 3 years grinding away, not really making the kind of impact he wanted, not really scoring any jobs, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think a lot of people seem to think that you're just sort of made for life once you leave WWE. And some people are if they look after their money and they're in a high-profile role for a long enough amount of time. And it would strike me that Batista was there for 5, 6 years in a really high-profile role in the WWE. But without that constant stream of income and perhaps maybe make some bad business choices, bad life choices, we don't know. Yeah, I can see that feasibly you could run out of cash, but I'm glad that he stuck to it and followed his dream because he's really carved out a fantastic career for himself.
Nice little niche. He's really good at that kind of strong, silent, hard man in these films.
Yeah,
and he has great comedic timing, as he's
in a bloody Bond movie as well as all the Marvel stuff and everything else.
He's going to be in June next year as well. The guy's doing phenomenally well. It's safe to assume that Dave is in a better place now that he's 50 years old. Friend of the channel, of course.
Yes.
Dave Bautista. Good for him, man. By all accounts, one of the loveliest men alive.
Fascinating.
Happy to hear that he's doing better.
Right, a quick update on NXT TakeOver for you now. First of all, of course, it was bloody brilliant. If you haven't gone and watched it, go and do it right now. No spoilers here. The Street Profits are our new favourite thing.
That's the thing he does, isn't it? What's he?
Should we do that be as them as Halloween, or is that?
No.
Okay.
Only Larkin and Danny Burch. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Update on some of the injuries from the Wrestling Observer. Apparently, it's been noted that there are people obviously pretty beat up, which, if you've watched pretty much any match, but in particular that ladder match, it would make a lot of sense, including Bobby Fish, who, of course, was seen in a sling over the weekend. But generally, updates from the Observer are saying that the indications are no one is seriously hurt and should be absolutely fine going forward. But what a night of wrestling that was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised by this at all, particularly given the ladder match. Oh. Like, Kyle O'Reilly, RIP that guy's back. He took some really horrendous bumps, particularly with ladders and stuff involved.
Unintentional ones as well, you couldn't brace for.
Exactly, it was just crazy. Guys were flying around all over the place, there were ladders and just all kinds of Of course there were ladders, it was a ladder match, you know wrong. It was really great stuff, but it was mental. At times it almost looked like it was veering unsafe, but, these guys are professionals, they're there to be trusted. The main event, of course, was a gritty slug. They always are. It was long, it was grueling. The opening match between Roddy Strong and Matt Riddle was really hard-hitting as well. So, this isn't a huge surprise. Let's just hope that whatever injuries are coming out of this event aren't too serious, because it'd be a shame to see anyone's momentum stalled after such a good show.
Really, really exciting time for NXT.
And speaking of NXT injuries, we're going to go to the big one at the moment. I am, of course, talking about Tommaso Ciampa, the former NXT champion, who earlier this year hurt his neck really badly, necessitated surgery. It cost him that match with Johnny Gargano in New York. And if you believe certain reports, it shortened his career and even put it in jeopardy. It was a really serious neck problem. Well, there's some good news from Triple H on his post-TakeOver media call, who said that cleared for contact means you can't do anything in this business. But Ciampa is ahead of schedule and doing extremely well, ahead of schedule on all of it and moving along. That being said, it will be a while before the 34-year-old is back. Triple H goes on to say that with the type of injury he had and the type of surgery he had, you're not doing anything until you're 100%. It's not like you can go in there and lightly take suplexes, so he's still got a ways to go, but he's ahead of the curve and schedule. Awesome news.
Yes, fantastic. Look, you and I want to see Tommy Ciampa back in the ring as soon as possible, but the caveat is, of course, so long as there's no risk to his health, and I'd rather have to wait another 6 months for him to be back in the ring full time than for him to rush himself back and then be off our screens sooner than we'd expect and possibly forever. I absolutely understand where he's coming from here. Look, wrestling fans have a tendency to get excited because of the sort of track record we've seen of many wrestlers being told, you're not going to be back for a year, and then 6 months later they're back wrestling full time. Look, I want to see him back. I want to see him back challenging for that NXT Championship. The title picture is so exciting right now, but only when he is medically cleared and just 100% ready to get back in the ring.
Yeah, get well soon, Tommaso. Hope to see you kicking people in the face and stuff. Yeah.
Right, final news story of the day, and we're going to move away from WWE. Well, sort of, actually, because Davey Boy Smith, it's been reported by the Wrestling Observer newsletter, is going to get a big push in MLW, but along with all that, he's actually garnering some interest from WWE. Do you think he could possibly be tempted to go there?
It's really interesting because he was obviously Harry Smith and DH Smith and all these other silly names before, and you know, it was at an early stage in his career. He was still very green. He hadn't quite put all the pieces together. And after his WWE release, Davey Boy Smith Jr. was very critical of WWE and the way they handle business and like the way they restrict freedoms and stuff. So I, for one, would be very surprised to see him wind up back there. I think he enjoys the indie circuit. He still appears for New Japan every now and then as one half of Killer Elite Squad. I think he enjoys what he's doing at the moment, and you know, working for these companies has allowed him to progress as a performer. He was obviously featured as, what was it, British Bulldog Jr. or something like that on World of Sport and so forth. I think he enjoys what he's doing. I could see perhaps, you know, the money offers that are getting thrown around these days are ridiculous. I could see him maybe going, you know what, I'm in my 30s now, I'm getting on, maybe I'll just take this deal and secure my financial future.
My prediction is he will take the big push in MLW for, say, 6 to 12 months and then start possibly playing AEW and WWE off against each other.
Smart move.
We've mentioned all the time about these big money moves and all these people that are getting signed up right now. There's going to come a time where everyone is going to have a sort of second phase. People might switch shows or whatever, and then also more of the indie guys will have more opportunities there. I think that's the best thing for him.
Absolutely.
Right, let's move on to your Twitter questions at WhatCultureWWE if you want to get in touch. First question comes from Scott Wilson. Hi, Scott, who says, who would you like to see in AEW that isn't a wrestler? He says, for me, it's Eric Bischoff.
I mean, mine's a bit impossible because he is on the executive board and he is contracted and all this stuff. Don Callis of Impact Wrestling, who he still does color commentary for New Japan as well. He's just a brilliant commentator. He's wonderful. He's the best color guy in the business today. I actually probably enjoyed the Double or Nothing announced team more than most. I thought Excalibur was absolutely brilliant. I thought Jim Ross exceeded my expectations. Alex Marvez, probably a little rough around the edges, maybe needs some more practice. I think that Callis would add so much from a personality standpoint. He's a big, bold character. He's great at his job. He knows so much about the business. It is impossible because he's in Impact and he has a stake in the company and all this stuff. But it's who I'd like to see.
Renee Young, just
good shout.
Not replacing anyone in AEW or anything like that. Just, you know, I can't imagine what Raw is going to be like for her this week. Good luck, Renee. Let's move on to the second question today, which comes from Silverblade on Twitter, who says, "Is WWE going to have to go to TV 14 if they truly want to compete with AEW? And if so, when should they start?"
It's an interesting standpoint because PG, the debate rages on and will rage on for as long as it's in existence. It's good and bad. It has sanitized the product, or that's subjective, but it has been really good for advertising and sponsors and so forth. Yada, yada, yada. It's a tough one to answer because WWE don't need to be seen as competing with AEW because they are light years ahead of them in terms of business at the moment. AEW's only had one show. I do think that moving to a less restrictive formula would certainly benefit the product from a creative standpoint, but would it be worth potentially risking advertisers? From WWE's standpoint, I'm not too sure. They love their balance sheets. They love trumpeting these major profits they make every quarter, apart from the last one. I don't know. I can't really give a concrete answer on that, to be honest.
TakeOver was PG, and I had no issue with it whatsoever. I don't think they have to, and I think, you know, they probably will have to make some changes when AEW launches, but I don't think that's going to be one of them. I think they're pretty stuck in their ways now.
I think so too.
It'd be a big backward step for them. As much as we'd like to see it, I think they'd see it as a big backward step, I should say. Final question today comes from Bands on Twitter, at WeAreHayden, who says, "I know that WWE hasn't done well bringing tag teams up from NXT, but do you think that the Street Profits even will be a huge success on the main roster like I do?" I'm kind of inclined to agree with him.
I love the Street Profits, especially after the weekend. That finish, they were so much fun. They got a massive pop. They're on the ascendancy. Vince McMahon will destroy those boys when he gets hold of them. He will turn them into a one-note comedy act. They'll do
Red cups.
Yeah, they'll just do this stuff with the cups and they'll do some. Vince will destroy those. They are exactly the kind of act that Vince will not get. He'll turn them into a one-note piece of crap we'll all be really upset because they're really this beloved figure. And look, that's not even a cynical point of view anymore. It's just pragmatic. It's just what he does. When was the last NXT act to come up and actually do well? You know, like Andrade's doing well now, but his gimmick isn't as gimmicky as the Street Profits. It's not as lively. It's not as, you know, outwardly exuberant and charismatic and so forth. They're screwed.
I was really positive when I read that tweet out, and now you've said that, you've completely convinced me. Yeah.
I'm sorry, brother.
They aren't going to be red cups anymore. They will be branded WWE cups that will sell to people.
You want to buy them for $20 on WWE Shop.
$15 for a Street Profits cup, and then they're going to do some silly bollocks for 6 months, and then one of them inexplicably is going to turn on the other one, and then they're going to have a feud, and then they're going to be on.
The most charismatic man in the world at the moment is going to go to 205 Live and do rest holds with Brian Kendrick or something.
Bollocks.
No, I can't. I'm sorry, guys.
Let's cheer ourselves up very quick, and finally an update on the 24/7 Championship, because if you haven't seen it, this is well worth checking out on WWE's YouTube channel. Sad news to report that R-Truth lost the 24/7 Championship over the weekend, but then regained it. He went golfing with Carmella. Jinder Mahal inexplicably was there in his gear, rolled him up to win the 24/7 Championship, got sort of stalled by Carmella, rolled up again by R-Truth, chinned, then R-Truth drove off in a golf cart. And the best thing of all on Twitter right now is Drake Maverick, who is now Maverick247 on Twitter, who's released this fantastic video of him searching for R-Truth. When Maverick wins the title, we're having a riot.
Party. We're on the pitch. Oh, God. I just love this image of Jinder Mahal walking around Florida or wherever they were in his full gear.
Hello, are you coming to golf, sir? No, I'm here to win the 24/7 Championship. My prediction, by the way, Brock Lesnar loses tonight when cashing in on, let's say, the Universal Champion, but wins the 24/7 Championship. You heard it here first. Let us know your thoughts on that and all of today's news stories in the comment section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And you can send us Twitter questions at WhatCultureWWE. Well, actually, they can follow both of us. You can follow him at
Andy H. Murray. The H stands for honking.
You can follow me at Adam Wilborn. You can follow us all at WhatCultureWWE and check out some more of our recent videos on the channel. My thanks to Andy. Thank you for watching, and we will see you soon. I'll bring the swag like nobody can.